The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
A former IRS agent on trial taking the stand in Virginia, admitting that he had an affair with the au pair, but he denies he's guilty of murder. We're answering your questions about the case. And in Ohio, the details grow darker in a case against a surgeon accused of murdering his ex-wife and her new dentist husband. In California, this shocking video of a toddler flying out of a vehicle and surviving is raising questions about what should happen to the mom behind the wheel. The Court of Law is done for the day. Let's call to order Court of Opinion. Welcome to Court of Opinion. I'm Jenaé. Thank you for joining us for an hour of big trials and even bigger opinions from our panel of legal experts. And they're going to have a lot to say about what's happening today in Virginia. The defense is in the spotlight in the au pair affair murder trial. And defendant Brendan Banfield, well, he changed up the dynamic in the courtroom completely by taking the stand in his own defense. Here's the case against him. Prosecutors say there was no crime of passion rather, but rather a calculated plan, alleging that Banfield used a fetish dating site to lure a man to his home to perform an attack fantasy on his unsuspecting wife. And the Commonwealth of Virginia says it was only to set up that man, Joseph Ryan, to take the fall for murder. Now, Banfield is claiming self-defense. He's pointing the finger at Ryan for stabbing Banfield's wife, forcing Banfield to have to defend her. That story, though, got challenged earlier in the trial by the family's au pair with whom Banfield was having an affair. She testified via plea deal that there was a plot to kill the wife, Christine, and that Brandon was the mastermind. So here's what we're going to do. Our power panel, they are ready to analyze all that we heard today from the witness stand. So we are going to get you caught up on the highlights of the defendant waiving his right to remain silent.
Did you love your wife?
Very much.
Did you want to continue your marriage with your wife?
Yes.
Do you love your daughter?
More than anything.
Did you have a relationship with Juliana Perez Magahais?
I guess the relationship started as professional in October of 2021 when she came to be a au pair or a nanny for our family.
When was it that this turned from a working relationship to something else?
In August of 2022. Juliana and I were home alone. Christine and were in New York, and Juliana started texting me while I was preparing food in the kitchen. It was an unusual text conversation in terms of that Juliana was complaining about her dating activity and the people that she was seeing at the time. I don't particularly like texting, and I think I basically said that if she wanted to talk, that she could come to the kitchen. Juliana showed me quite a few screenshots of her dating app. I believe it was Hinge. And the people that were in the Hinge app all had similar names to me. Their names were Brendan and Brandon and Brennan. And these were people that she had matched with on the app. And it appeared to me that she was, along with the photos, the screenshots that she had shown me of people that she had matched with, that she was basically describing me. I did not stop her advances. At some point, I told her that I was going to go upstairs, indicating that I was going to go to bed. And she said that she was tired and that she was going to do the same. When I went upstairs, I went to the left, and she also took a step towards the left with me. And we had a brief conversation there. And then she came with me into my bedroom.
Now, was Christine aware of your affair?
I don't believe she was aware of the affair between me and Juliana.
Was she aware of your previous affairs?
She was aware of at least 2 previous affairs.
Okay, and likewise, were you aware of her affairs?
Yes, I was also aware that she had affairs.
Let's move toward the October timeframe of 2022. Did you ever create any sort of a plan with Juliana?
No, there was no plan. At this point, our relationship is maybe 6 to 8 weeks old. I think that it's an absurd line of questioning for something that is not serious, that a plan was made to get rid of my wife. That is absolutely crazy.
Right. That was a look at the defendant on the stand. It's only part 1 of his testimony. He's coming back tomorrow for more direct and then that cross-examination that we know everyone can't wait for. So let's bring in our power panel. We have with us tonight criminal defense attorney Lawrence Zimmerman, criminal defense attorney and former head New Jersey County prosecutor Bob Bianchi, and trial attorney Philip Dubé is with us. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Lawrence, I'm going to start with you. How did he do? What's your opinion of Brendan Banfield on the stand?
A little stiff so far, but he's an IRS agent, so give him a little leeway there.
And there you go.
But, you know, it's a little bit of a tough sell based on the facts we've heard so far. He's going through the history of he had an affair, she had an affair, maybe a little too much history, I think. And he'd sort of get to the heart of the matter, and I haven't heard that yet.
Oh, maybe a little too much detail?
Maybe too much detail,
okay,
for sure. Maybe tomorrow if he shows back up.
Oh, he's got to show back up. We're already halfway there. Bob Bianchi, what's your opinion of how he did? Do you think he hurt himself at all at this point in his testimony?
No, and I respectfully disagree. I mean, this is direct examination, and his lawyer is asking the questions. He's got to answer the questions that are being asked of him. These are basic questions, and the lawyer is getting out in front of cross-examination in the affairs. What they're going for here is crazy girlfriend defense. And as a former prosecutor that's had co-defendants, and I've had to make a choice as to which one I'm going to, excuse the expression, but sleep with in the trial and have as my main witness, I got to worry about all sorts of collateral attacks of that witness. And that's what's happening here right now. That basically, like this fact, it resonated with me when he said that he showed a profile and she's researching all sorts of names or connected to all sorts of names that are similar to him. That's kind of like a crazy thing to think about. And is the prosecution going to be able to dispute that? Because they're going down the alley that she created all this because she wanted the wife out of the way so she could have him. I think it's a good defense.
Philip Dubé, what do you think about that defense? Because I've tried to figure that out in my head. Could he just say that maybe she planned all of this, but I don't think the evidence points to that. It's either definitely the way he said it happened, self-defense, and Joseph Ryan was actually Christine's friend, or that this was all the plot that they came up with together. I don't know that Juliana could do this by herself.
No, I don't think so either, because first of all, you have him calling 911 admitting to the dispatch that he killed Mr. Ryan. So right there, you've got him on the homicide. The real question is it an excusable homicide? But if in his mind, he truly believes that his wife is about to be raped, if you will, with an edged weapon, that is defense of others, and he can certainly do that under Virginia law. I think the real question is going to be, who does the jury believe? Mr. Litsky, the forensic expert, or Juliana? Because in the final analysis, it could be the forensics that set him free. If you recall, Mr. Litsky testified that there is no way that any catfishing was going on based on his review of all the digital trail. So either you would have to believe that they meticulously worked this out so that they were staging things and setting the table for basically a stage LARPing armed rape, or she set him up. And I got to tell you, if you have to guess which way to go, that's called reasonable doubt.
Okay, so you both. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I agree with my good friend Phil. It's been a while since we've been on, but not just because of that. That's exactly the point. This has to be the most unbelievably orchestrated thing, if you believe that, but it could also be that she set this whole thing up and he came in on it and acted in self-defense because he had no idea of the plot that she put into motion. And it, like Phil just said, all it takes is one juror to say, I'm just not comfortable when the prosecutor sleeps with this dog. There's too many fleas attached to it.
Here's the problem I have,
And
guys.
she's getting a sweetheart
Who
deal.
killed Christine? That would mean that if he came in and shot a guy attacking Christine, then that means that Joseph Ryan would have had to actually have killed Christine, or Juliana couldn't have done it at any point and also have Joseph Ryan still on top of her attacking her. So that's where I kind of miss it. You see where I'm going with that, Lawrence?
And then she apparently shot him as well.
Shot Joseph Ryan as well, yeah.
It's a big convoluted mess. But
yeah, but if you can't figure it out, that's what reasonable doubt. Those
course.
words are right there. If you got,
of course,
Exactly.
we agree with you on
That's
that.
exactly
No, go
right.
ahead. Go ahead. Y'all can talk.
yeah,
No,
no,
but I
I mean
was
that's
gonna
this
throw
is
in-
look. If
Yeah,
we
go ahead.
of all of us great, my colleagues far more intelligent than I am as a prosecutor, as a homicide prosecutor, I am really concerned about this testimony. All right, because I know that my witness has been beaten up, and I agree with Phil. The forensics are going to, if there's no forensic to support this, or there's no reasonable explanation, or you have a battle of the forensic experts, and now he gets up there and humanizes himself a little bit, says, yeah, I'm a bad guy. I was cheating on her. She was cheating on me. But this girl's crazy girl, and they gave her a manslaughter for this? After all that plotting and planning, she gets to walk away with that carrot? I smell a bad problem here for prosecutors.
Lawrence, when you see him on the stand, do you think this is more attorney-driven or client-driven that he is taking the stand? Do you think he needed to take the stand in this case?
I mean, if you're going to claim most cases where sort of self-defense is your defense, then 90% of the time or more, you want your client to take the stand to walk through everything that happened. That's really the best and only way to do it. You can have self-defense or defense of others without your client taking the stand. I don't have a problem with this testimony. All I'm saying is I just maybe get into a little more of the action first and maybe come back to some of that later. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he hasn't actually gotten to the point of talking about the shooting, talking about seeing his wife being attacked. Philip DeBay, do you think it was his choice? Did he want to get up there and tell this story and not just let his attorney try to do it in closings?
Oh, yes. And you know what tips me off that that's how it went down is, do you remember when the court asked him during proceedings if counsel's client was going to be taking the stand, and counsel said yes, and he looked up, startled? I don't know if he was looking up because he heard somebody gasp in the gallery, or if it's because he was questioning what on earth his lawyer was telling the court. But to me, that was a signal that his lawyer was encouraging his client to take the stand. Now, certainly he could withdraw that, but it certainly looked like it was at the lawyer's behest.
But it's always
and in
the
the
client's
final
choice.
analysis, it's always the client's choice, right? But in the final analysis, particularly in this case, looks, demeanor, and credibility are currency in a double homicide. He took the stand. He's kind of a classy guy. He's not the typical scofflaw with the lengthy rap sheet. I think so far he's coming off pretty good. Now, when cross comes, they're going to wipe the floor with him. The best is yet to come, so let's start getting out the Jiffy Pop.
So far, so good is what Philip DeBay says. Our power panel is standing by. We're going to keep talking about this case because, as Bob Bianchi said, it's convoluted. And we've gotten a lot of questions from you all about this case. This trial has had a lot of moving parts. So we wanted to know what our viewers have been saying and what they want to know. So we'll be answering some of those questions about this trial and using the evidence that we've seen so far to answer those questions. Keep it here on Court of Opinion.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Welcome back. We are still in Virginia for the Au Pair Affair murder trial, and now we want to look at some of the evidence presented so far in this trial. But today, instead of reviewing the best evidence presented during testimony, we're answering your questions about this trial and using what we believe is the best evidence to answer them. So let's get to our first question from the Court of Public Opinion. We have Maria, who on Facebook asks, how did Joseph Ryan wind up being in her, meaning Christine's, room without her yelling and whatnot? If Christine had no idea of what was going on and had no knowledge of who Joseph was, why would she let him in? So let's take a look at some of the evidence that may help answer Maria's question. Now, first, on day one of testimony, while the au pair, Juliana Maglahayes, was on the stand, she testified that the day of the murders, Brendan made sure Christine was asleep and then used Christine's cell phone to unlock their front door. He then hid her cell phone in a drawer, turned it off, turned it on silent, and then left that front door unlocked. Plus, if we look back at some of those messages sent on the fetish website FetLife, prosecutors say that it was the defendant pretending to be Christine on that website. Joseph Ryan is told that Christine wanted to partake in an attack fantasy. And she tells Ryan that she will be panicked during this scene, but that would be part of the fun of it. And when Ryan asked if he should stop if she starts kicking, she said she wanted to fully experience the scene and did not want the scene to be broken. So all of that really important in understanding why this all happened the way that it did. Let's bring back in our power panel. We have with us Lauren Zimmerman, Bob Bianchi, and Philip Dubé. Bob Bianchi, what do you think? Does that evidence answer the question about why Joseph Ryan was able to make it all the way upstairs in this house?
I think the question actually answers itself as far as this case is concerned. I don't know about the rest of the panelists here, but that, these people that are watching on Court TV are very astute viewership that watches this, and they're questioning. They're asking, how come? They're not satisfied. This is what I'm getting from this question. I don't know if it answers the question or it doesn't. To be honest with you, I'm very confused about what went on here. And if all of us are confused and it's convoluted, like I said before, and this juror, if you will, in the Court TV opinion is confused by some of these things, I suspect the jurors will be too. And as a former prosecutor, when I'm worried my jurors are going to be confused about the theory of the case or why, or it just doesn't make sense, like so many things, that will always benefit the defendant. That's what that question says to me.
And Bob, you've been analyzing this case for weeks now, so for you to still be confused, that says a lot. Philip Dubé, what do you think about the question and the evidence that we think supports the answer?
No, I don't find it confusing at all. I think the real question is which version of events do you believe? Are you buying into Juliana's version, or did she take that deal so she could quickly be on a one-way slow boat back to Rio for Carnival, which, by the way, is in a couple of weeks, okay? So, and if I were her, I would have grabbed that deal, and if I were her counsel, I'd twist her arm out of the socket until she took the deal. All you have to do is flip on Brendan, testify, and off you go. Is too sweet of a bargain basement deal to pass up, Anyhow, now having said that, I think everything was too choreographed. And in order for you to believe that he was in on it, you would have to believe Juliana, that they set this stage to leave the door unlocked, for her to take the kid to the zoo, for him to go to McDonald's, leave that door wide open so Mr. Ryan could get in, go up there with a knife, and engage in that sort of violent sexual LARPing of a rape. Okay, so the real question is that how it really went down, or do the forensics show otherwise, that Christina was leading a double life by going on to those chats and chatting away using those secure messaging apps to find people who are into that type of fetish lifestyle? If so, it kind of gives validity. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something. But this is the problem with her testimony. If you're sitting there saying, Phil, it could be this and it could be that, which I agree with you, completely agree with everything you said, then the witnesses, the evidence, the forensic evidence, all the other evidence did not support the Queen. The Queen, the star witness for the prosecution, whose credibility that you so aptly put is under question, has not been supported by other evidence. That's a problem for the prosecution. And all these theories show that there's confusion. We're saying it right here by the questions we're asking.
All right, speaking of questions, Lawrence, I want to get your opinion on this one. Kiki asked us, how did blood get on Joseph Ryan's hand if he didn't stab Christine? And we've seen this graphic image of Joseph Ryan's hand covered in blood. I mean, it is striking. And the testimony has been that he was shot in the head and immediately dropped. So the question is answered potentially in two ways. Now, there was testimony during Juliana's time on the stand where she said the blood may have gotten on the body of Joseph Ryan because Brandon had handfuls of it and actually dripped it on Joseph's body. But here's something that more goes to the defense. Here's what the medical examiner testified to under cross by the defense attorney.
There's a bruise on the palm side of the thumb with a cut or a puncture.
And would that be consistent with the knife that you've viewed?
It could be.
Lawrence, what do you think about that question from our viewer? Looking at that image of the hand with blood on it and wondering, okay, if the stranger who came into this house is not the killer, why is he so bloody?
Well, that goes to the confusion here. I mean, I was going to actually say before Mr. Bianchi was talking that to me the other question really, not really diverting from what that question was, but
sure, go ahead.
Nobody's DNA was found on the knife. That to me that was kind of interesting as well. To sort of, so what's going on here? Who stabbed? If Brendan's not on the knife and she's not on the knife, Juliana, that's interesting as well. And then now we have blood all over him.
Bob Bianchi.
But I think that actually...
Go ahead, Philip.
That actually corroborates Brendan's version of events. He's going to testify the reason why he shot at him is because he was stabbing up his wife. Remember the whole idea of this sexual fetish role play, he went in there to assault her, rape her with a knife. And if blood is all over Mr. Ryan, it would, at least criminally, justify why Mr. Banfield shot him and killed him. It was to get him off of his wife. If anything, this is fantastic defense evidence.
Now,
I agree with that. And I'd just like to just add to this so that your audience can get an inside perspective that having been on the scenes where these murders take place and the investigation is in its initial stages and then it progresses, I think we're sophisticated enough because of shows like this to know, and I mean nothing against my former colleagues, but the mistakes that are made in the investigation, the jumping to conclusions that I've witnessed literally when you come to the scene and they're like, it has to be this guy. And then all the evidence that supports it, they accept, and all the evidence that contradicts it, they disregard. That, these prosecutors and police are not omnipotent, and they put all their eggs, I've been there, in the basket of this witness, and hopefully they got it right. But something says to me they did an eeny, meeny, miny, mo on this.
Plus, how much blood could somebody drip on somebody else in that regard to make it look like that? That's sort of questionable as well as what you said. So,
but do you think the investigators didn't look into Joseph Ryan? I mean, he called himself a FetLife vet. He's been doing this a long time. He knows how to cut so you don't end up in the hospital. He liked to meet with people beforehand, very conscientious if you look at the text messages, but they kept turning down a meet beforehand, saying, oh, it'll ruin the thrill if we meet you. So would they have been able to dig into his past and find that this was the time that he turned into a killer?
Well, I mean, certainly go into his FetLife account and other accounts that people do use. I've had clients in this sort of that situation with these apps, and there's ways to obviously get into it and see other people they've been communicating with, what they've done with, not victims, but people who are consenting adults that are into this impact, play, and pain. So, I mean,
and given the fact that he is a subscriber, it means he's into that whole kink. That is his scene. That's sort of his jam. And that in his bailiwick. And what does he do? He goes out to private residences, helps himself, goes up the stairs, and the next thing you know, he's stabbing away at the lady there. So I think it's actually the perfect choreographed crime.
Real quick, I want to get in our third question from one of our viewers. This is Deanna. She asks, does anyone know how the defense had a phone call between Christine Banfield and Joe Ryan for 42 minutes? And the answer to that was Juliana on the stand said that, yes, she was the one making the 42-minute phone call with Joseph. Take a listen.
how did you and the defendant communicate with Joe Ryan on Telegram?
By texting.
Did you use any other form of communication on Telegram with him?
Phone call.
Who was it that spoke on the phone with Joe Ryan when you had that phone call?
I spoke to Joe.
When you spoke on the phone, did Joe comment on your accent?
Yes.
What did he say?
That was the first thing he said. As soon as I said hi, he was surprised that I had an accent.
I want to get your final thought on this before we have to go to break, because we were talking about this during the past commercial break. There's a lot that Juliana had to do for all of this. I mean, she is the co-defendant. They say she's complicit, but not only your boss is in a relationship with you, you're part of this murder plot, and you're also having to be on a 42-minute call with a guy in a fetish that may not be her own.
Yeah, I mean, she did a lot of work to get what? What was she looking for out of this, getting rid of Christine? Was she offered a lot of money? Were they going to live this fabulous life together? Are there messages or conversations between the two of them the police were able to uncover showing they were planning to go on some elaborate Mediterranean vacation after all this? What was the ultimate goal other than let's just move her out of the way and we're having a great sex life?
And now she is going to be getting that deal that's going to get her time served, and she'll be back to Brazil, where she was from in the first place. Thank you to all of our panelists for your opinions on that case. Of course, Brendan Banfield on the stand tomorrow. You do not want to miss it. Early in the morning, keep it locked on Court TV. Up next, we are going beyond the gavel, breaking down the biggest true crime cases. And this one, a hospital room turns into a crime scene. The woman who killed her terminally ill husband is speaking out, saying there's nothing she would have done differently.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Drop the gun!
Drop the gun right now!
Drop the gun!
Drop the gun!
Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on. I don't want to hurt you. We don't want to hurt you. Tell me what's going on. Just talk to me.
Welcome back. We are taking you now beyond the gavel. This case is already done. A deadly decision inside of a hospital room. And now 3 years later, the woman responsible is speaking out. 79-year-old Ellen Gillen. She is now out of prison after serving most of a 1-year sentence tied to a failed murder-suicide pact that she had with her terminally ill husband, Jerry. Now, investigators in this case say that Gillen took that gun into the Advent Health Daytona Beach in 2023. She shot her husband in a hospital room. She planned to take her own life when this happened, but she couldn't go through with it. And when the staff responded, she pointed a gun at them, triggering what you're seeing here, this terrifying lockdown and hours of a police standoff. Gillen later pleaded no contest to manslaughter and assault charges. And during her sentencing, she described the moment that she shot her husband.
2 days before his death, the doctor came in and said it would be at least 3 more weeks before they can consider removing the tracheotomy tube. At that time, he started begging me to help him end his life. We discussed various methods. The gun he owned seemed to be the only way that we could successfully achieve his wishes. He took the safety off the gun, and I took it out of his hand. I held the gun behind his ear. I pulled it away and asked him if he was sure. He raised his hand and placed it on my arm and pushed the gun to his head. There was a loud bang, and he was gone. I was already crying, and I became hysterical.
Now, that was back in February of 2025. Current day, in an exclusive interview with Fox 35 out in Orlando, Gillen says fear and desperation drove her actions. When asked if she would change anything about that day, she says, quote, there wasn't anything else to do. She went on to say, I am accepting the consequences. I have to figure out how to survive after this. Gillen is now out on probation and doing community service. Let's bring in our guest panel, Lauren Zimmerman, Bob Bianchi, and Philip Dubé. Bob Bianchi, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about the sentence that Ellen Gillen was given?
I think it's disgraceful. As a prosecutor, one of the biggest powers that I had that was vested into me was to use the rule of reason and to use my discretion and not to treat all cases equally, but to understand the mitigating circumstances. This is a love story. You may disagree with the way they went about it. And was a crime technically committed? Absolutely. But to put a person in jail for a year because she wanted to put her husband out of pain, the fear that she went through and that he went through, the decay of their relationship because they've been together for their whole lives.
The pain.
I mean, had they not been brutalized enough, one of the things we're supposed to do is deterrence to make sure that future criminal activity does not occur. This isn't the case. As a prosecutor, I don't like the idea there was a standoff. I don't like the idea there was danger to police officers, but nobody got hurt. You made her a felon. You made her a convict. Community service is enough. 12 years probation? It's a waste of taxpayer money. It's excessive. It's egregious to me. And Ellen, if it was this prosecutor in my county, you would have had to plead guilty, but you wouldn't have gone to jail and you wouldn't be on probation for 12 years because I would have understood that you were in love and doing a very difficult thing. Maybe you got it wrong, but you know what? I like to see other people in the same circumstance and see what they would do. I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback for this, but I just think that this is a tragic case.
Lawrence, I see you trying to weigh in.
No, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, and first of all, it's the state of Florida, so obviously, you know, up until like recently, they still use Old Sparky to electrocute people. But when I was 13, my father, who's no longer with us, told me if I'm ever debilitating like this, I want you to walk to the hospital and blow my brains out. That's what my dad said to me. Obviously, that is something heavy, but he saw, you know, his father went through a lot of pain and suffering when he was dying of cancer. She didn't do this out of malice or spite, and the pain that she wears today and the emotional baggage she will have to the day she dies is beyond what most people will ever have to go through. I mean, the government can execute somebody because a jury found them guilty and sentenced somebody to death, but it's you're going to go to prison because your loved one who's dying and can't move asked you to do this. She's caught between a rock and a hard place. And yes, she should have not gotten 12 years probation or gone to jail. I have a heavy heart for her. It's a sad story all around. I'm not saying people should do that at all.
Well,
sure, Philip Dubé.
Well, let me be devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate here. Okay. Yes.
Should have stood her ground,
I find
Philip,
it really
and
curious.
acquitted. It's Florida.
Yeah, watch. Yeah, exactly. I don't know about that, but probably they would probably nullify, frankly. Right. Part of the problem is Florida law. They do not allow for mercy killings, euthanasia, or assisted suicide. And Ms. Gilland is basically acting as a Dr. Death, the Dr. Jack Kevorkian of Daytona, Florida. And frankly, the man probably wasn't going to live much longer. What did he have? 3 to 6 weeks left to go? And the other thing I find really fascinating
she was getting rid of his pain. That's what he wanted.
Okay, fair enough. However, there's one fact, and that is this was a murder-suicide pact, meaning they were both going to go out together. It's always fascinating how the shooter survives the murder-suicide pact, and they walk out of the hospital and out of court, time served with probation. I find it fascinating, that's all.
All right, let's talk about the trauma, because it's not just the trauma and damage to, of course, her husband, but there were people who testified, healthcare workers, who talked about what that day did to them. Let's take a listen.
At first I thought somebody fell because it was a huge bang, like a huge sound. It didn't sound to me like a gunshot. I just felt like somebody fell to the floor from the bed.
And when you walked into the room initially, what did you first do?
When I first get into the room, I put my gloves on and asked, like, do you need any help? What's going on? And then when I stopped close to the sink, I saw that the patient head was covered with a pillow, and when I realized Mrs. Allen was pointing a gun at me.
They had to move all the other patients off of that floor while they waited for the standoff to end. Bob Bianchi, you were starting to weigh in, so react to that, but also your reaction to Philip Dubé's position.
Okay, well, like I said, the thing that bothers me the most about this was that they put other people in harm's way, caused the standoff, and somebody could have gotten hurt. So that's where the plea would have been. The plea would have been a risk to public safety or a widespread risk to public safety. I, as a prosecutor, just don't have the heart. I'm sorry. I live in a real world as a prosecutor where I have to be judicious with who I go after. One of my mentors as a prosecutor once said to me, Bob, will the world stop spinning? Will somebody die? Will justice fall apart if you show mercy and compassion to somebody who did something wrong, but they did it out of love and they did it because they thought they were doing the right thing? I was trained properly by that prosecutor to see a difference about the technicality of the law as opposed to using my discretion for the benefit of humanity. I would never, I repeat, never require this woman to have to plead guilty to manslaughter for killing her husband when she did it as an act of love. I just think it's heinous.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you all for your opinions on this one. The bigger conversation about compassionate death, dying with dignity, and end-of-life laws. We'll continue the conversation, but we do have to get a break. Coming up, we're going to get our hot takes from our panel on the cold facts. They're going to give us their opinions on the biggest cases, including new evidence in the case against a surgeon who allegedly killed his ex-wife and her husband. Were the warning signs present leading up to the killings?
This is the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. Let's get the hot takes on the cold facts from our panel of experts on some of the big headlines developing today. Here's our first story, and it comes via this shocking video in California where a child is thrown from a vehicle and survives. Take a look. Now, the driver of this vehicle is Jacqueline Hernandez. She quickly stopped and picked up her child as traffic narrowly avoids a crash. She was later arrested on a felony child abuse charge. This child is expected to fully recover. And prosecutors say, though no charges have been formally filed, and so far she is out of jail on bond. So let's bring in our guests to get their take on this story. We have Lawrence Zimmerman, Bob Bianchi, and Philip Dubé. Lawrence, your take on the mother being charged in this case.
Well, I'm not so sure why a child that small, that age, is sitting in the front seat. Number one, that's a problem. Obviously. Number two, child should be in the back, buckled in appropriately. So I can definitely see charges here. There is a problem with what happened. That's awful. Thankfully, the child was okay, as far as we know.
All right, let's move to Bob Bianchi. I forgot to tell Lawrence, Bob, but you get 25 seconds on the clock so we can get to all of these stories and get to all of you. But what's your take on seeing that shocking video and then now what the mother is facing?
Unlike the other case we were talking about, I look at this case completely different. Here, there is a need for prosecutors to deter this kind of conduct because other people who risk their children by not having them properly secured in their seat, I can tell you as a lawyer and as an emergency medical technician, when you roll up to a scene, it's just completely unacceptable. I don't think she should go to jail, but we should look into whether or not her or her other children are in danger.
Philip Dubé, she's 35 years old. What's your take?
Well, it is a privilege to be on with Mr. Bianchi. He is a grizzled, silver-tongued orator of law. He has a brilliant legal mind, but I respectfully disagree. This case does not belong in the criminal courts. It belongs temporarily in the dependency courts where they can provide services to maybe get her a car seat, teach her, the rules of the highway, that kind of thing, so that this does not happen again. But branding her a felon, taking the child away potentially, and convicting her is unnecessary.
I love the mixture of takes on that one. Of course, the best news out of this is that child is expected to fully recover. Let's get to our second story. This one out of Ohio. Newly released court documents reveal that Dr. Michael McKee is accused of stalking his ex-wife Monique Tepe for weeks before he allegedly murdered her. And this also would have been stalking of her husband, Dr. Spencer Tepe. Now, according to the court documents obtained by Court TV, there's video evidence that allegedly shows McKee, who's 39 years old, of entering the area of the Tepe home on December 6th of 2025. Now, keep in mind, that is nearly a month before the December 30th double homicide. And they also see on this video that he leaves a few hours later. The records also reveal that at the time, Monique was with Spencer at a game. She left that football game at halftime to return to her hotel. And her husband, Spencer, and friends said that she was upset about something involving her ex-husband that same day. Now, the surgeon, McKee, he has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary while using a firearm suppressor. Let's get the hot takes from our panel. Bob Bianchi, let's start with you.
Yeah, this is a nightmarish guy. There are homicide cases, most of which you can wrap your arms around. We cover, of course, obviously the worst around the country, but this is a guy who has to be in control. If the allegations are true, sociopathic, stalking this person, be careful with who you bring into your life, because you get a guy like this, you're not getting rid of him, and he's going to make his point. He doesn't care if he goes to jail or not. No remorse. This guy, if I can't have her, no one's going to have her. Very dangerous personality if these allegations are true.
Philip Dubé, I didn't think anything could make these murders any worse, but this stalking could be an aggravator when this goes to trial.
Absolutely. And short of this being a FetLife cosplay LARPing situation like we see in Virginia, he's in trouble. Now, on the other hand, I want to see that video. It better be HD quality, showing that it's clearly him, as opposed to some shadowy silhouette of some unknown figure, because right now we don't have actual proof that it was him behind the curtain.
Lawrence, some of those friends said that they actually heard Monique, the victim in this case, saying that the defendant said that I can buy a house next to you. You're never going to be rid of me. You'll always be my wife. I mean, that's the chilling part of her ex being the suspect here.
Sure, that goes directly to controlling, stalking, deviant behavior that Bob was talking about. That is a scary person. But then again, like Philip said, maybe it wasn't him, or maybe he was there to water the flowers. He forgot when he moved and he was checking on them. Maybe they should have hired Joseph Ryan. Don't know. But clearly, those are very bad facts. If that's what the friends were saying, that he made that comment. That's awful.
This is why we call it Court of Opinion. We get a lot of outlandish opinions here on Court of Opinion. Let's move to our final story. Actress Sydney Sweeney could be facing trouble with the law following a stunt at the famous Hollywood sign. In a video posted to Sydney Sweeney's Instagram, she can be seen climbing on the top of the H in the iconic Hollywood sign and stringing up some bras to promote her new lingerie line. She also had a permit to film, but she was not allowed to touch the signs. A TMZ reported that the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce could file a police report for trespassing and/or vandalism. Not clear, though, if they will. Lawrence, what do you think?
No way, not going to happen. No one's filing a lawsuit or arresting Sydney Sweeney. I would have climbed up to the Hollywood sign with her and touched the H on her behalf. It's a stunt. She's getting a lot of publicity for this. It's driving everyone to her lingerie website. I will bet a lot of money that nothing's going to happen on this.
Philip Dubé, you're out there in California.
My wife's not watching, is she?
Will the authorities come after Sydney Sweeney?
I hope not. That would be such a waste of taxpayer dollars. I think at the very worst, they could give her a misdemeanor diversion so it doesn't result in a conviction. And if we're honest, you can't see that darn sign anywhere in the brown smoggy haze here in Hollywood. If anything, they should be going after the fossil fuel industry for corroding and eroding our air.
Should do community service car washes, right, Philip?
Bob Bianchi, final take for our final story of the evening.
I mean, first world problems. This is why people hate elites in Hollywood. Yeah. Are you kidding me? You got people that can't be fed. You got people dying of fentanyl. You got crime problems. The world's on fire, and this is what we're going to waste our time with? If they pursue this, they're going to look like the biggest bunch of idiots on the face of the earth. It was a stunt. It's funny. Get a sense of humor, move on, don't be an idiot.
And look at the publicity she's getting.
Don't be an idiot. That could be the asterisk on all of these cases that we cover here on Court TV. To our power panel, thanks so much for being with us, Lawrence Zimmerman, Philip Dubé, and Bob Bianchi. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for connecting with us this hour. I'm Julia Jenaé for Court of Opinion, reminding you we've all got opinions. Make sure they're rooted in facts and strive to respect the other person's opinion, even if you don't agree with it.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.